a couple days away from Christmas. If you're celebrating that holiday, it is just right around the corner. And again, my amaryllis is looking absolutely magnificent. This is my largest one. You can see it's potted up here. I love showing off this particular amaryllis. I talk about it every single video. This is where I'm starting out every live, kind of just recapping this one. So if you think about it though, if you watched any of my previous lives over the last, I guess, 2 to 3 weeks, I do this pretty much every Sunday. I've been trying to jump on here on a live and give a good live here about every Sunday. This is the second stalk that is blooming. So I have 2 stalks here. This particular amaryllis put up 2 stalks, and I want to take this and just clip this off. These old blooms, they've gone over. I have no need to keep those on the plant. Just clip those off, tidy it up a little bit. I'm not going to take the whole stem off, but as the stem dies back, once it turns brown and starts to die back, then I will take that whole stem off. I don't really care about trying to make this go to seed. I don't want it to go to seed. I don't want the plant to pull more energy into trying to make seeds here or try to grow a seed head or anything like that. I don't want any of that happening. I want the plant to continue to put all of its energy back down into the bulb. So as soon as this entire stem starts to die back, I just don't want to cut it off. I could cut it off now. I know other people who they cut these stems off and then they use these as a cut plant. And you can do that and the bulb will survive just fine. But I wanted the plant to kind of retract some of that energy back down out of this stem. And once it starts to go brown and die off, then I'll cut the stem off. But you can see the second head is blooming. I talk about this amaryllis a lot because I'm always excited to talk about this amaryllis. I'm saying amaryllis. I'm always excited to talk about this amaryllis because I love to highlight that fact that this plant, this bulb is several years old. This is not a new young bulb. This one has been around for a while. I've had this one for years and the bulb continues to grow larger and larger over the summer. I set it out, I bring it back in. So that's what it's doing right now and it's looking really great. Another thing I'm really excited about, I want to pick this up, is this plant right here. Just sit it right here for a minute. Now this is a classic normal jalapeno and I didn't buy this. I didn't grow it from seed. You can grow these from seeds. You pick them up and they grow really well from seeds. But this jalapeno plant I actually purchased as a small plant back in the spring and I grew it out in my garden outdoors all year and it did really wonderful. As you can see, it still has a few jalapenos on it. And then you say, well, why doesn't it have any leaves on it? Because unfortunately it got hit with a frost. So when it got a bit of frost on it, it didn't kill it, but it took off a lot of those leaves. So all of those leaves that had frost damage, I took them off. But if you kind of make it out, there's a new growth of small leaves here, some small leaves here, and I could just take these peppers off. I'm just kind of leaving them on there just because it identifies this as a jalapeno plant. The thing is, you can keep your jalapenos and most of your peppers year round. You don't have to let the frost kill off your pepper plants. So this grew outdoors in a pot, produced peppers. You can see it's producing peppers here. Produced jalapeno peppers for me wonderfully all summer long. Tons of beautiful jalapeno peppers coming off this plant. Right before the frost, which I didn't get it out right in time, but the frost hit it. I wish I got it in sooner. But what you want to do is right before the first frost area, go outside, dig up the plant. Now make sure you get all the roots and don't cut right next down to the plant. So if the plant here, this plant is about a foot tall, so less than half a meter tall. Make sure you go about 6 inches wide, go down, dig around, make sure you get that root ball. And that's what I did here. The roots are all in here encapsulated in this pot. And if you get the plant out the ground and with the roots, bring it indoors, put it under some grow lights because I have these indoor plants, you can actually grow your pepper plant year round. And what happens is the plant starts to get a bit woody. I don't know if you can make that out, but this lower stem is starting to go brown. This is the main trunk of the plant and it's going to go brown. It's going to go a bit woody. And that's what happens with these pepper plants. You can keep them for several years. I was in a beautiful I was in a beautiful conservatory, botanical garden in Germany, and they had this massive glass house, and they had some plants in there, some pepper plants that they have clearly kept alive for several years. The longest I've ever kept mine alive is for about 2 years. How is it fake? It's fake, clearly. Oh no, you can't see me because I'm to the side. I'm doing these vertical lives, and I just want to highlight the plants more than I want to highlight myself. So is it fake? Let's see. What are we talking about? It's all fake. No, no, no. These plants are all 100% alive. This is a jalapeno, and if you're jumping on the live and you can't see it, hope you can see me now. I'm kind of leaning in so you can see me. But this is a real plant. How do I prove that it's real? I'm not going to take off one of the blooms. Let me see. It's growing out of this pot. Here's potted into this soil right here. And here's the bulb and these stems. It puts up 2 stems. And I want you to go on Google and Google Amaryliss. And if you Google Amaryliss, you're going to see that Amaryliss looks exactly like this. This is a red Amaryliss. So back to the jalapeno. But yeah, you can keep your jalapenos year round. I've done it before. This one is doing really well. I kind of need to stand it up a little straighter. If I can, I may put a rock on the side of this so it can stand up a little straight. I won't do that right now. I'll get a rock later tomorrow and sit that so this plant will be a little straight in this pot. But this jalapeno is putting out new leaves. The frost did not kill it. I took all those leaves that had the frost damage on it, and it's putting out new leaves. And in another month or so, I will show you, and this will be bushy again, the way jalapeno plants tend to be. It'll be really bushy. And so this is for people who like to save a little bit of money. You can do this. You can grow your plants, keep them over multiple years, and then in the spring you won't have to go rebuy jalapenos. I have jalapenos plants here, and I'm going to keep it. Next year I may buy another one so they cross and have some more, but there's that one. Here is another bulb for an amaryllis, and you can see it hasn't bloomed yet. This is the same as this larger one. It's just a smaller bulb and a smaller pot, smaller plant. It's going to bloom. I'm not sure which color this is. I think this may be magic green. I think this one may be kind of a greenish tan color, maybe a bit green, but it's going to bloom in another probably 2 weeks. It comes off the bulb, shoots up these long stems. It has these beautiful flowers here, and they bloom around the holiday season. This is another one that's going to bloom here in about a month. It's going to bloom after Christmas, but early in the new year, that's going to bloom for me. Those are the only ones that I have that are at the point of blooming. Here is another one, another amaryllis. It is smaller. And this is a little side one. I pulled this off just a couple weeks ago, and the bulb is actually almost doubled in size in just about 2 weeks from the size that it was before when I pulled it off the bottom of the larger bulb. I just put out a video on that. You can see that. Go on the channel, you can find that one. Repotting the amaryllis, and you can see me take this smaller one out, and I put it in this pot here. This one, all strappy leaves. Don't see any stalks, so this one will likely not bloom anytime soon. There's no stalks coming up. It may bloom probably in the summer, or it may take another year before this one actually blooms. I have a lot of amaryllis bulbs because in this large pot with this large plant, there is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 6 there, and then I have some more around on the back side there. Every year I buy 1 or 2 more. I collect 1 or 2 more, and I like to grow them. And then as they get larger, I just repot them in the larger pots, and they'll bloom. Like this one's blooming right now around the holiday season, and then others will bloom sporadically at different times throughout the year. So that's my amaryllis update. I love to talk. Sometimes I'll call it Amaryliss because that's kind of the thought, but it is amaryllis. That is the more common name for it. So that's my amaryllis update. But what I actually want to do, just gonna move the camera around here. What I actually want to do today, or tonight now, is actually work with this. This is one of my indoor plants, and this is Philodendron micans. And it is a beautiful vine. I have 2 vines here. Pothos, golden pothos. We'll come back to that one. We'll set that to the side. The first thing I want to do though is I want to get this Philodendron mican. I bought it and I set it on the shelf. And when I bought it and set it on the shelf, it just, back there, and it just started growing, and it just produced all of this, right? And I was like, okay, I need to kind of train this up a little bit. I need to do a little bit more with it. So what I want to do is I bought a moss pole. There's a nice moss pole, and I'm going to take it, make a hole in this pot, kind of put some of the substrate, and this is growing in Lechuza pond, or just commonly known as pond. I'm going to put some of this substrate into the moss pole, and I'm going to stick the moss pole into the pot, and then we're going to wrap this beautiful plant around the pole. I want to make it more vertical because right now it's just trailing all over the place, and it looks really nice. Philodendron micin is popular because the leaves have this beautiful, it's almost a velvety type consistency to it. Look at that. It's kind of velvety. It just looks really, it's just a lot of texture. And the coloration is just kind of this nice green. It has little burgundy, slight burgundy streaks, but just has a lot of nice texture. It's just, if you look at it closely, it has this nice sheen on it, just kind of velvety. But it's a really great philodendron. It's not hard to grow. I literally bought it, repotted it into pond, and set it on a shelf and kind of didn't touch it for, I guess, 3-4 months. And then I looked around, and it's really, really grown quite a bit. So again, what I'm doing here is, oh, I see I have here, I guess, they're all real. They're real. These plants are all real. I wouldn't waste time collecting artificial plants. I mean, if you do that, of course you can. But for me, these are plants that if you put your time and energy into these plants, they will grow for you really well. These are tropical plants. Most of these, of course, that jalapeno, it can grow outdoors through the summer. Most of these I keep inside. The Amaryliss, which is this one here, in the summer, middle of summer, I set that whole pot outside, let it get a lot of great sunlight. The rest of the year, I keep it indoors. These are tropical plants. They come from tropical parts of the world, so you have to kind of maintain a high humidity, which I actually have a fish tank in here, which is producing, and there's water running in that fish tank, which is producing a bit of higher humidity. And you have to keep the temperature high for these plants as well. There's also a heater in this room because I'm in the UK, right? And it's a bit, there we go. Just kind of put some of that substrate in the moss pole so it won't be so flimsy when I stick it down into the pot. But this room, I actually have a humidifier. I don't use it because I don't want to pamper the plants too much. I also figured out the humidity in this room right now is 34%, and the temperature is 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I have a little gauge over there so I can always see what the humidity is in here. And so you want to keep that humidity high because, again, these are typically predominantly tropical plants that come from tropical parts of the world. So you want a room that has high humidity, and you want to keep your temperature up. There's a heater, which I turned the heater off. This is really windy and cold tonight. So I turned the heater off just so as I'm taping, it's not going to be making as much noise, background noise. But I have a heater that runs in here to keep that temperature. Like I said, right now it's 70 degrees. This room is always warm. And it's a grow room. It has beautiful windows all around. But this time of year, we're not getting a lot of sunlight. Yesterday was the winter solstice, which in the UK, Northern Hemisphere, the shortest day of the year, although the day is the same length, 24 hours. But daylight, it was only 7 hours and 50 minutes of daylight in the UK yesterday. So it was a really short daylight, and that's the winter solstice. A lot of people went down to Stonehenge. If you kind of do that, I'll go Stonehenge for summer solstice, but not for winter solstice. Either way, short day, not a lot of light. Tropical plants need a lot of sunlight. And so I have grow lights set up. There's one here, one there, and then I have others pointing at different plants to increase the amount of sunlight or light, artificial light that these plants get to keep so they won't go, start to look all limp on me. All right, let's see if this is enough, and then just kind of push this on down. The roots aren't really there. Let's see if I can make to dig this out a little more. Okay. And just kind of make sure this is in here pretty good because it needs to be sturdy. I don't think that's quite deep enough. Let me move a little bit more of this substrate to the side. Yep. So again, we're just gonna take some of this out. Let's sit this down. Take out some of the substrate. The Philodendron micin is a plant that you can find growing naturally, I think in Central South America. Where's the hidden weed plant? Oh, nah. I don't grow any of that kind of stuff. I know a lot of people talk about that a lot, and they do grow those. I don't grow any of those plants. But I can say that the requirements for plants are pretty consistent. They need soil substrate, and they need light, they need water, and they need fertilizer. And so if you have the right substrates and you want to grow plants, you can grow some plants. But no, I grow, these are the only kind of plants and only ones that I have here growing. All right, and what I've used for fertilizer is, here's what I've been using a lot, is liquid fertilizer. And this is a liquid seaweed. It has about 70 different micro trace elements in here. So 70 different elements, trace amounts, blend this in with the water, and that ensures that the plants, that's the main thing, pretty much the only thing I use to fertilize my plants. Right now, this substrate that I use actually has a bit of fertilizer in it, and so I'm not actually adding much fertilizer to it because these haven't been planted up for very long. I may add different fertilizer to it, but right now, I'll look in the future, I'll look for something else. But right now, this is what I'm using, seaweed fertilizer, and it has those trace elements in there, and these plants have just been really great. It is a bit hard to keep plants alive, but if you can get those right growing conditions right, a lot of times people don't have the right amount of light. You grow a plant indoors, and I go into people's homes and they have a plant. They have a plant in a pot away from a window. And windows help, but sometimes you actually need a little bit more light than what you can get even from indirect. So if you want to grow a plant in a home, you definitely have to look at what are the conditions for that plant. Where does it grow in nature? Is it a low light plant? Is it a high light plant? Most plants that we're growing indoors nowadays are low light, and they can handle the lower light that you're going to get inside of a home. A lot of homes also don't have enough humidity. They're a little too dry, and that hurts the plants. Okay, now let's see if this will work. And so if you work with those elements, light, don't overwater, have a pot that'll drain. You should always have a pot that has a hole in the bottom so water can drain. So you have a two-pot system where you have a pot and then it sits in kind of a smaller, let me see if I have anything here. I don't see anything right now, because these pots that I use are semi-hydroponic. There's a system inside of it where the substrate doesn't go all the way down to the bottom. It can hold a little pool of water at the bottom, but that's separated from the roots. It's semi-hydroponic. And it has a little meter here that as the water level goes up and down, I can know how much water is in there. So that helps me. So keep the right amount of water on the plant. Don't overwater the plant. Of course, then don't forget to let it dry out. I like these hydroponic pots because it allows me to not have to spend so much time thinking about, do I need to water the plant every couple of days? This allows me to actually step back and only water the plant, say every, it really is probably close to every couple of weeks that I'm watering the plants. All right, get some more substrate in here. There we go. Just add a little more around the top. And then we're going to start the process of wrapping this vine around this pole. And it's kind of basically just replicating what this plant would do in nature, going up a tree. So that's what the moss pole does. All right. So that's pretty stable. I put the, yeah, that's pretty stable. I mean, if I wanted to get more stable, I had to go with a much larger pot than what I have here. All right, but this feels good. I put the substrate in there, so this is not hollow. So if you want to make sure you do that, Put some substrate in it. That's why it's open on it end. Pour some substrate in there if you're using soil. If you're using leca, here I'm using pond. So I put some pond in here, kind of makes this heavier. And now what I'm going to do is take the plant. I have these ties here, kind of like bread ties. When you tie your bread up. So I have plenty of these, a whole pack of them. But I'm going to take the plant, very carefully start to separate out the individual vining. There we go. Just kind of separate this. And any of these that I break off, and I hope I don't break off many, but if I do break off any of these, I will actually tell you the truth. I'm going to be honest with you. I already broke off one when I was taking it off the shelf. Where did I put that? And the one that I broke off, you just take it, the piece that you break off, and just stick it in some water. And in a couple weeks or to a month or so, keep this water in there. You may have to change it out so it gets to start looking all kind of brown and funky. Leave the plant, pour that water off, put some more water in here, and it'll root. After it roots, after a little while, you can take that and repot it. So I have one of these stems that's already broken off. This one broke off, unfortunately, but it's not dead. We're gonna work with that. I'm gonna take this leaf off here. I'm gonna take this leaf off here, and then I have this stem, and I'm gonna take this and just stick it into this water. And so now, you see how it just kind of looks kind of scraggly, but keep this in the water, and what this will do, this will root. I actually have a little bit of rooting hormone as well that I've already put in the water. So this is going to root, and I'm going to sit this back on the shelf, and this will root for me. So I'm not going to lose this. What I actually did was I now have 2 Philodendron micans, but this is going to root. We'll set that to the side for now. All right, back to separating out the rest of this plant. Okay, I think I have one here. You have to be really careful though. It's not a very, it's kind of fragile. It feels really soft, and you can see the vines are very narrow. All right, here's one that's separated out, and then here's another smaller one. Okay, I want to actually completely separate each and every one because I don't want to try to do them together. I want to do them separately, but they will overlap. You'll see in just a moment once we start wrapping around the moss. Okay, I'm going to start with this one. Here we have the smallest one. I'm going to move this over a little bit just to get a better view of it. And all I'm going to do is very gingerly wrap this around the pole. You see? Just wrapping it around the pole. Now, because it hasn't been growing up a pole, some of the leaves are going to be facing the wrong direction. And that's okay. Try not to have them all facing inward. But once you set this up, you'll see that those leaves will shift and turn towards the light. All right, and there we go. Just hold that in place. Take one of my zip ties. That's not really one of these little ties, and just right behind those leaves here, and then just tie that in place. As this grows, I'll continue to wrap it around and tie it down. Okay, so that's the first one. We're going to do this with several more. That's the first one, and we're going to do the same thing now with the next one. And it's okay. Just try not to make those leaves lay on top of each other. There we go. And just continue to wrap around. And you could just run straight up to the top of the pole. I'm trying not to do that because I kind of want this to have a full look to it. I don't want it to look sparse. And just kind of wrap this around. Uh-oh. Here we go. Uh-oh. But very carefully, not pulling it too tight or pulling it too hard, because this is a live plant, and if I pull on it too much, it could break. And again, I have a way to save any pieces that break off, but I prefer not to have any breakage. Now, I've seen people wrap them even tighter than this, but this is I feel comfortable with this right now, because there's still several other vines it's going to have to wrap around. There we go. Hold that in place. Get the tie. And there we go. And so you can see how it changes the look entirely, where this was a plant that's trailing. Now, if I had this hanging from the ceiling and you want to have it hang from the ceiling, and that would be great, and then you could have it trailing down, and I've seen people do that. That may be a bit better for this plant, which is a little fuller, the golden pothos. You can put this in a pot, hang it up high, and it will trail down. You can do it like that. All right, now let's separate the next one, and we're gonna do the exact same thing again till we get all of the vines. Okay, so that one's on that side, and we have 3 more left. So the next one is kind of shorter. All right. This actually has seeds in it, jalapeno seeds. If I wanted to collect those seeds, I could cut these open and save the seeds from that. Of course, you have to be careful when you're messing with peppers, though. You don't want to touch the pepper and then touch your eyes. That is something, if you've ever done it, it's very painful. Okay, so here's the next one. Going to do the same thing. Just wrap this around, and I'm okay with going a little higher on this one, so I'm not going to go so tight down at the bottom. Kind of just slide around the leaves. This is not necessarily hard. It is a little time consuming though, just because you want to be careful. Again, you're dealing with a live plant. I'm going to go a little higher before I get too tight, because I don't want this. There we go. Don't want it all to be bunched up down too much in the same area. Okay. Look at that. This is going really well. And as this gets bushier, and it will get bushier, you won't be able to see the moss pole as well, and you won't be able to see all of this wrapping around that I'm doing. All of that will kind of be hidden by the leaves. And there we go. There's the next one. Just going to hold that in place. Get another tie. This is actually going a little better than I thought it would. There we go. And tie that in place. I am from the United States of America, originally from a small town in Arkansas, which is down in the deep south. A lot of people don't consider Arkansas deep south, but if you ever go down there, you'll figure it out real quick. It's deep south, right next to Texas, right above Louisiana. All right, we have 2 more vines that we're gonna wrap around. Follow that same process over and over again. And I'm gonna go low here and just start that process, just wrapping this around, being very careful not to lay the stem on top of any leaves, because if you do, those leaves are going to die. And so don't want to do that. Okay, I'm going to work my way up the pole a little bit more. Oh, just lost a leaf there. Here we go. There we go. Just wrap that around. I'm gonna go a little higher on this one because this one is a little longer. I don't want to go all the way to the top of the pole because I want to leave some room at the top for growth. Oh, get that leaf. There we go. Don't want to bind those leaves down. So we want to be careful, if you can, to avoid laying stem on top of leaf. There we go. I'm gonna go a little bit higher with this one. This one's a little longer. And wrap that right there. Look at this. And perfect. And just gonna tie that one down as I've done with all the others. Again, and you can look right now, you can see this vine, but you won't be able to see that in a little while. I'll show this, in a month or two after this one is leafed out a little bit and starts to change its growing habit. You won't see all of that stem. Now, I will tell you, this is my first time actually ever using a moss pole myself. I am into ornamental plants. I love going to botanical gardens. Even on my YouTube channel, I started the channel because I enjoy going to botanical gardens. I predominantly do ornamental outdoor plants. That's what I love: perennials, perennial borders, dahlias, Amaryliss, which is daylilies, canna, some of the tropical plants. I love delphiniums, outdoor plants. But outdoor plants are dormant at this time of year. And I did start to get into the indoor plants a bit. These here, which I have growing behind me. And as I've kind of gotten more into indoor plants, I've been enjoying it. And it just kind of allows me to be more just involved with plants on a year-round basis. I enjoy plants during the summer, and I enjoy what those summer plants can do, but I also am enjoying these indoor plants as I'm learning to do this. So this is my first time personally ever using a moss pole, and I've learned this technique, and I think it's going pretty well so far. This is the last vine that we want to get, and I want to continue to wrap it. I'm going to wrap them all the same direction. Hopefully if I ever take it off this moss pole, considering that I've wrapped them all the same direction, it'll come off easier. If I go this way and then that way, I may end up in a situation if I wrap this way, clockwise, counterclockwise. If I wrap them up that way, I may end up in a situation where I won't be able to take them off the pole. But because I can see the moss pole here where this plant may outgrow the moss pole, but if it does, I'll take those clippings, I'll clip off those parts that get too long, and again, I'll just have more Philodendron micin. All right, let's get started wrapping this last one. Working with plants like this and life can become a bit overwhelming sometimes, and I find, it's getting a little hard to dodge all the leaves now, but I find working with plants, especially like this is really getting in there. You're working with those plants, putting a lot of energy and effort into it. I find this to be soothing and really relaxing. And if you need a good stress reliever, if you're looking for a way to reduce some stress, then I would actually recommend getting into houseplants. They're a bit easier than dogs. I've had dogs, and they're easier than cats, but that doesn't mean that they don't need your time and attention. They do. They do need time and attention. You have to pour time and attention into these plants. And that's the thing. A lot of people think they can just buy a plant, set it in the corner and forget it. And that'll work for a little while. And then you look over there and it is dead. Each plant has its own growing conditions, and you have to find out what those conditions are for that particular type of plant. And that takes a little bit of effort. You have to put some effort into finding out, what does this plant need to grow, and can I provide it what it needs, right? Provide the needs of the plant. Just like if you get a dog. When you get a dog, you're going to have to feed your dog. You get a cat, you're going to have to feed your cat. You're going to have to walk the dog. There are things you have to do to make sure that your pet is in optimal care and condition. Well, it's not any different for plants. If you want these plants to be the best that they can be, grow, thrive, and have a situation where people look at your plants like, "Ooh, wow, those are really beautiful. How'd you do that?" Then you're going to have to spend Uh-oh, that's bound. There we go. You're going to have to spend a bit of time with those plants, just kind of making sure that you're providing the essentials for their growth and development. All right, hold that in place. I'm going to tie this last one down. But yeah, I find this to be pretty relaxing, really soothing. It's kind of I'm going to stand up here. It's kind of a task, right? That you get to accomplish a task, especially like this. When I had a plant, it was growing in one direction. I wanted to grow in a different direction. And I set out, went and bought all the components that I would need. And here I've wrapped a plant around this moss pole. And this is a task completed, right? I feel good about what I just did here. And I'm looking at it and it doesn't look great, but it's gonna fill in. I have faith. This unfortunately is the stem that broke off. What I want to do is I'm going to just kind of wrap it one loop if I can. Just kind of get one loop, just get it up on the moss pole because I don't want it to trail and grow in a different direction. There we go. So if you have a lot of these stems, if you break off several of them, or if you're pruning this in the future, you could take those stems, you put them in some water, you grow them, and then when you get ready to pot them up, you would take a group of them and pot them all together into a pot, and that gives you a fuller look. So this plant that I have, you see I think it was about 5 or 6 different vines. That means that this is probably 5 or 6 different cuttings. And when I bought it, they'd taken those 5 or 6 cuttings, put them all in a group in a pot together, and that gives it a full look. If you just keep that one vine by itself, it's going to take a really long time for it to look full. All right. I feel really good about this. Again, this is my first time ever doing this. So this is a showing and we're all learning together type of activity. It's in the pot. Lechuza, this pond is very heavy. It's a heavy substrate. I put some of the substrate into the moss pole, so the pole has some weight on it. I've now wrapped it around, and I think it looks pretty good. And it's showcasing how beautiful those leaves are. That velvety color of the leaf that you get with this Philodendron mikan, you can kind of see that now. Instead of those leaves being trailing all over the place, it also, by bringing those vines, which are one vine going this way, one vine going that way, one vine over here, one vine over there, you see I bring all the vines in close, that groups the leaves closer together, and you can just see how it starts to take on that look. It's starting to get some appeal to it, getting a little sexy, starting to look really good. Now at the top, bring this down. Here are those ends right there. This is one of the ends. Here's another end right here. And as these grow out, there's another one right here. Most of the ends are starting about right here and going up to here. They're going to grow, and they're going to grow out, and they're going to grow, and they're going to fall down. And you could let them do that, grow out and fall down. What I'm not going to do is, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually have it grow out, and as it grows out, I'm going to take it and I'm going to wrap it around, at least till I get to the top of the pole. Once I get it to the top of the pole, then it becomes, I may let some of them fall just to kind of increase the look, or at that point as it continues to grow, I'll keep this as the base plant, and then I will be able to propagate from probably those tips. So once those new ends get long enough, I'll go right next to a node. It's all wrapped up here now, but I'll get next to a node, cut it off, take that, stick it in some water, put a little bit of rooting hormone in there, because I like to add that rooting hormone to the water, and then I will let that grow. It will root. I will take it, repot it, and then I will have quite a bit more Philodendron mikan. And then you can start to share your plants with your friends, really at no cost to yourself. You have a beautiful mother plant, mother colony. It grows for you, looks really wonderful. You can share that with friends and others, and it didn't cost you anything, but a little bit of time. Look at this. This is it, Philodendron mikan. Now that did take a bit longer than I thought it was going to take. So I have this golden pothos. What you see, they look similar, but they're not. But this is a very traditional potting plant. A lot of people have this one, the pothos. A lot of people have them in some more of a darker green color. I like this one, the golden. It's golden, you know, and it does have a hint of golden on it, but to me, it's chartreuse, it's limey, it's just very vibrant, it's bright. I love the coloration. Now I'm looking, there's some little white spots on there, so I'm actually gonna take this and get my alcohol pads. I'll do some of that real quick. Give me a second to take the mic off. Oh, no, I can get over here, come right back. Okay, now these are isopropyl alcohol pads, and these have been great because I have had a problem with mealybugs, and I've been fighting the mealybugs, but what really works really well for mealybugs is isopropyl alcohol. So these pads have isopropyl alcohol on them, and I just take it and I will wipe those leaves down. And looking to get into all those crevices, anywhere that I see any white stuff, and then I actually have a spray. Look at it on the bottom of the leaf, there's some. Wipe all that off. I actually have a spray bottle with isopropyl alcohol in it as well. So once I get this completely wiped down, just kind of wipe on the top of the leaves, wipe down the bottom of the leaves, taking off any of the mealybugs that I can see, any of the seed pods or anything like that, wiping all that off with the isopropyl, and then I'm going to spray this plant down with more isopropyl alcohol. And the plant is doing pretty good. But I want to get, it's been kind of growing in a low area. I want to get it up higher. I'm not going to, see what I did here with this moss pole? This one has to be completely repotted. And I will probably repot it and put it in a pot with the moss pole all at the same time. I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to save that till next week. And we'll sit here and we'll do that again next week. I try to go live once a week. I say, hey, you know what? I can't do it all the time, but I think I can manage to go out there and get a live going once a week. Every Sunday is what I'm planning right now. And I've been holding on to that pretty good, and it's really relaxing for me. Okay, I'm just kind of clean this up. There was not that many spots that I can see. Let me see if there's any more here. Set this mic, move this over to the side. This is another vining plant, different variety of plant. You can see it vines really well, but look at that, shorter, much shorter right now. Hasn't grown anywhere near as much as the mican has, but there's about one, two, three, four, same type thing. Repot this, get this on a pole, and I want this to grow up on a pole, just like this one. But it would probably take me about another hour, if not longer, to do that. Great plant, great house plant, does really wonderful in low light. And that's what this room provides. A lot of great humidity, a lot of great light. All right, if there are any questions, you know, if you didn't catch the live, you have any questions, drop those questions and I will try to answer. I try to answer every question, especially on this channel. I try to answer all the questions, especially ask me specific questions about plants. And not because I say that I'm a super plant guru. I've been working with plants for a long time. I've been growing plants pretty much my whole life. But if I don't know the answer, I'll do a bit of research, try to find the answer, and we can learn together. I do know quite a bit though, but I definitely don't know it all. There's definitely a lot more that I'm still learning, especially if it's about houseplants. I'm really learning how to take care of them. And I think I'm doing okay, right? I got a lot of green going on behind me, doing okay, but I'm just kind of learning how to do it. And it just is growing into the hobby of horticulture with these houseplants. All right, I've cleaned this plant up a little bit and I will repot this. We may do this one next week. I'm gonna sit this one back to the side. I only lost like 2 leaves. Now, when you break off a piece of vine, you can repot that. I already showed you the vine where I did break that off. I'll pull it up again. So this one piece did get broken off. It's in some water. I'm going to sit this and just let this root. This will root. And once it roots, I will repot this up. And so this again, Philodendron mican, I'll repot that up. Right now, just sit it in a nice windowsill under a light. But I'm not going to waste the time. If you have a leaf though that breaks off, well, you just lost a leaf. There's no vine connected to this, and it's not worth the effort to try to grow that. I don't even think you could with this particular plant. Now, there are some plants, some succulents, if you just have a leaf broken off, in a cactus, you can do that. So if you had, say, the Christmas cactus, which is, well, it's also not blooms, but kind of back down the shelf. If you had just one piece of that, you could do it. But this I would actually put in my worm composter, feed that to the worms. All right, this is a job well done. Philodendron Micin. That's all I wanted to do for this live, guys. And I appreciate everyone who's watching these and kind of sending in. If you don't catch them live, you catch them later on the channel. I still appreciate it. I appreciate the community that has been kind of growing here with me as we're learning about plants together, growing and visiting beautiful gardens and visiting some really wonderful horticultural places. Hey, if you know of any great gardens that I can put on my docket to kind of get to next year, that would be wonderful. If you're a gardener, and I would love to be able to start getting to the point where I'm not just going to visit beautiful botanical gardens where you have all these professional gardeners. I would love to talk to some home gardeners, because those home gardeners have some great ideas and techniques, and they can produce some really beautiful gardens. So that's something that we're looking to do next year as I continue to get out and grow more and do more with horticulture. If you have some ideas, some recommendations, drop that down in the comments. Let me know. That's it for this live. Until next time, take care.